of Congo, Your Excellency Emerson Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Your Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, President of the Republic of Somalia, Your Excellency Mohammed Yunus Memfi, President of the Presidential Council of Libya, Your Excellency Mohammed Musa Faki Mahamat, Chair of the Africa Union Commission, Your Excellency Evangelist Akiwumi Adesina, President of the Africa Development Bank, Your Excellency former President Joaquim Chissano of Mozambique, Your Excellencies, Vice Presidents, Prime Ministers, representatives of heads of state, Your Excellency Governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, Madam Martha Koome, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya, Excellencies, Ministers, Honorable Governors, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted and privileged to preside over the opening session of the 59th Annual Summit of the Africa Development Bank Group. On behalf of the people and government of Kenya, I extend a very warm welcome to each of you and invite you to feel at home in this land of many delights. It is a great honor for Kenya to host the 59th meeting of the Africa Development Bank Group, especially as the group celebrates its 60th anniversary. Let me put this in context. We had also the privilege to host the 30th anniversary of the Africa Development Group in 1994. We are privileged to host the 60th. And I have requested the Africa Development Bank Group to offer Kenya the 90th anniversary in 2054. And I promise that even if I would be walking with a walking stick, I will attend. This milestone should frame our deliberations and engagements during these meetings. We are gathered here to reflect on the progress of our continent that has made in realizing the founding vision of this institution, the Africa Development Bank. Formed in the first decade following the independence of most African countries, the Africa Development Bank embodies the Pan-African ideology of sovereignty, prosperity, and unity. As a matter of fact, one of the founding communiques of this institution clearly declares the determination of African nations to use all our resources to lead all African countries to independence and achieve the development and prosperity of the continent in unity. That was done 60 years ago. And over 6 decades, the group, like the continent, has not only survived many crises and challenges, but has also grown stronger and achieved much in supporting economic growth and stability in our continent. It has become Africa's premier development financing institution. To date, it has financed 5,432 projects across our land, 4,036 of them which have been completed, provided a mechanism to coordinate the fight against poverty, improve the standards of African financial institutions and other institutions, and contributed significantly to conflict prevention and resolution. You agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that Africa development's performance has been nothing short of sterling. I think they deserve a better round of applause. Nevertheless, the pace of African economic growth and development has not kept pace with the rest of the world. More concerning is that the pace of African development remains far behind its undeniable potential. Intra-African trade remains low, with its share of global GDP less than 3%. Africa's share of global trade is also low, at just about 2%, and our exports are primarily unprocessed produce and raw materials. Not surprisingly, the rates of poverty and unemployment are still high on our continent. The vulnerabilities arising from this situation undoubtedly contribute significantly to conflict, economic refugees, and in this age of frequent extreme climate shocks, climate refugees. There is tremendous urgency in developing and implementing transformative interventions to turn things around for our continent, our countries, and our people. I am confident that this sense of urgency resonates very strongly amongst African leaders. And I am encouraged that we are not just doing something about it. We are actually making very good progress. Our continent is growing at the world's fastest rate, exceeding the global average of 3%, and 11 of the world's fastest growing economies in 2023 were African countries. We were told that by Adesina. Between 2000 and 2002, Africa's real GDP increased at an annual rate of 4.3%, well above the global average of 2.9%. 7 of the 10 world's fastest growing economies were in this continent of Africa. The Pan-African Economic Integration Agenda has finally taken off. Our regional economic blocs are vibrant and effective, while the African Continental Free Trade Area has come into effect and already made a huge impact. Although much remains to be accomplished before intra-Africa trade is smooth across borders, the data indicates strong positive movement following the launch of the Guided Trading Initiative. As we look into the future, with this optimism, we are also cognizant of the immediate challenges we must confront and overcome. Africa faces multiple serious challenges, including geopolitical risks, the broader effects of armed conflict, the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect, disruptions in the global supply chains, and persistent extreme weather due to climate change and macroeconomic instability. To compound these crises, the economies of the continent continue to bear the burden of rising costs of servicing huge national debts, caused in part by high global interest rates and, of course, external shocks. I am, however, confident that the strong positive response by African leaders and nations to the Africa Union Agenda 2063 signals our collective intent to undertake radical transformation of African economies, achieve sustainable development goals, and unite our people in prosperity. We have what it takes to succeed, and current activities show movement in an encouraging direction. To achieve this transformation, a consistent commitment of substantial resources is required to invest in infrastructure, industrial capacity to deliver rapid growth. However, we face the rigid barrier of global financial architecture that is fundamentally misaligned with our aspirations. We routinely borrow from international markets at rates far above those paid by the rest of the world, often up to 8 or 10 times more. These rates are said to factor in something arbitrary called risk profile that is notably not applied when considering mineral extraction, even in areas of active conflict. It is safe, we are told, to mine in spaces where there is conflict, but it is risky to lend to African economies. What a contradiction. The debt problem faced by many countries, which consume the largest share of national resources and starve development agenda, we are a direct result of this unjust financial architecture. This situation not only makes debt unsustainable, but also undermines growth, prevents countries from investing in resilience, and denies millions of people, especially young men and women, their fair shot at life's opportunities. Africa remains most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, as evidenced by recent devastating floods, for example, in Kenya, and drought in Southern Africa, from which we are still working to recover.